When Heather didn't call, I was very concerned. I had grown attached to our little talks. I think she had too. Some days she even called twice. She had such a bright, pretty voice. She would say, "This is Heather from Card Member Services," as if I had lots of pretty girls named Heather calling me up, and she had to specify which Heather she was. Even though that wasn't true, I allowed myself to be flattered. And she would always assure me there was no problem with my account. Even though it was silly of her to think I worry so much about my account, it was sweet and even a little touching that she was so anxious to put me at ease. I wanted to ask her out, but I always got embarrassed and had to hang up. Finally, one day, I worked up the courage to ask her if she wanted to have dinner, maybe Chinese. She didn't seem to hear me, just chattered on, and I thought maybe she was Chinese and I'd patronized her. But then she gave me a phone number to call. I don't mind telling you, I was very excited. It took me a couple of days to work myself up to it, and I had to pretend not to be home, but I called. And someone completely different answered the phone. I had trouble understanding him, and he got a little angry when I asked for Heather. So I hung up. Then she stopped calling. A day went by, and then 2, and then 3. I don't mind telling you, I grew very concerned. Was it me? Should I have called back sooner? Had I insulted her somehow? I mean, the man who answered the phone had an accent of some kind. Maybe she was Chinese after all. Maybe she was a poor girl looking for a way out of difficult circumstances, and I had been her last hope. Maybe in the time it took me to overcome my shyness, she decided I had abandoned her and had run off, or sold herself into slavery or prostitution. Who had that man been who had answered the phone? Had he done something terrible to her? What had I done? I cursed my congenitally cold feet. Finally, after 5 days of anxiety and self-recrimination, the phone rang. I don't mind telling you, I just about leapt to answer it. "Hello," I said. "This is Rachel from Card Member Services." It was a voice that sounded so much like Heather's at first I didn't notice the different name. I said, "Thank God you're okay. I was so worried about... Wait, did you say Rachel?" She chattered on, but I was so confused I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know if I had heard right or if my ears had deceived me, so I hung up. The next day, she called again, and I made sure, Rachel. She seemed almost as sweet and as friendly as Heather, and she said the same things, but I was now very confused and distressed. What had Rachel done to Heather? I thought all sorts of terrible thoughts. I imagined Heather begging for her life at the feet of this cold-blooded usurper, and not only receiving no mercy, but even having her personality stolen. A final terrible insult. Or maybe it was Heather, and in some dire predicament or other, she had been forced to assume a new identity. She had turned to me in her darkest hour, and her cheerful prattling was a smokescreen, or even a coded message. It occurred to me that the word credit came from the same Latin root as the word credibility. That is, credo, which means I believe. Believe me, she was saying, believe me, I need your help. But what could I do? How could I even put this theory to the test without compromising her? If Heather were indeed her original name, I thought about this for 2 days and finally resolved to call the authorities. I don't mind telling you, I expected them to be a little more understanding. And then Beth called. But lo, whence the photons propagating through yonder window? Ah, 'tis the east, and Juliet is the sun. Well, not actually the sun, which is the source, but rather say the moon that reflects them upon my affectionate retinue. And nor is the sun the source, but rather the fluorescing vapor of quicksilver in yon industrial light fixture. Oi me. She speaks, and her speech doth vaunt of New Jersey. Oh, speak again. So Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet, but that's okay, because scientists use binomial nomenclature to avoid confusion. That's a taxonomic convention in which each species is assigned a two-part name in Latin. The first part, which is capitalized, is the genus, and the second part, which is not capitalized, is the species. That's so we sidestep misunderstandings that might result from a species having different names in different languages, or, like in some cases, the same name being used for two different species in different parts of the world. I take thee at thy word. Call me but, for instance, a scientist in Russia may say Norveshskaya krisa, while a scientist in China may say shu, and a scientist in America might say lab rat or wharf rat, but we would all understand Rattus norvegicus. Notice that norvegicus is not capitalized, even though in English Norwegian would be. That's because, yes, it's the specific name. Call me but love, and did you know that when he's happy, he produces short ultrasonic chirps, which some scientists have compared to human laughter? But I think he's sad, and that makes me sad. Because rats are very social animals, you know. They groom each other lovingly and like to sleep huddled together. Love is very important to me, too. Juliet! Call me but love, and publish your description in a respectable scientific journal, and I will be new baptized. Henceforth, I will never be, well, actually, I'm not going to be rebaptized. I maybe will file for a legal name change. Those things can take time because bureaucracies are hopelessly inefficient. But you can start calling me whatever you want to call me right now. Shall I be... Where'd she go? A boy, about 10 years old, runs up from the surf. He's fat and has a crew cut and is wearing swimming goggles. He runs by us and shouts at his family, "They call me Dolphin Man!" One of us snorts derisively, another stifles a giggle. One loses his composure and laughs out loud. Dolphin Man, fresh from his adventures, does not notice. I laugh too, but it's very depressing. This boy is maybe 2 years removed from life's most bitter revelation, the point where all sense of self-importance, promise, and power is destroyed by the synergistic collision of onrushing maturity with the ridicule of one's peers, where one realizes that his every word, his every action, his every accomplishment, far from being something of which he should be proud, rather marks him indelibly as a dodo, a geek, a schmuck, a spaz, a wimp. The sun reflects off the hot sand, a merciless retina-burning glare. This boy, call him Dolphin Man, is 2 years away from learning irrevocably and inescapably that he was, is, and always will be a failure. Let me paint you a little picture, Chief. One day soon you will burst exultantly from the water, as you have just done, blubbery, begoggled, and piggy-faced. As you give voice to your triumph, you will hear someone imitating the sound of a twanging guitar. It will be my friend over there. He will then sing. There's a man who lives a life of danger. Who's that porcine, half-cetacean stranger? You won't know the meaning of porcine or cetacean because you'll have left your Triphibian interspecies translator at the underwater dolphin cage. But you will look over at us. None of us will be looking at you, except one pretty girl with tight curls, but she will seem like a grown-up to you. She's a very nice girl and will be looking at you with a warm and sympathetic smile. Women will be starting to be of interest to you, and you will sense an element of pity in her smile. You will feel a vague and inexplicable twinkling of shame. You will continue on to your sheltering family, but your stride will be a little more tentative and the world will be that much safer for evildoers. The education of Dolphin Man will have begun.